Here we go. Here we go.
The other thing that I think is really interesting, because I really got to know Donald Trump post-presidency, and I got to see what he was like. And over the weekend, he was talking about how Joe Biden needs to take a cognitive test. Joe Biden, isn't all there. Donald Trump had severe memory issues. As the journalist who spent the most time with him, I have to say he couldn't remember things. He couldn't even remember me. We spent an hour together in 2021 in May, and then a few months later, I went back to the White House. I went back to Trump Tower to talk to him about his time in the White House, and he had this vacant look on his face, and I said, "Do you remember me?" And he said, "No." He had no recollection of our lengthy interview that we had, and he wasn't doing a lot of interviews at that time. So I think that the American public really needs to see this portrait of Donald Trump, because this shows what he is like and who he is and who he is all.
Takeaways from sitting down with him, right after he left the White House, when his political power was probably the lowest it's been since 2015, and how he reflected on when he was hosting The Apprentice. And the ratings were soaring in that first season, and just kind of what that looked like for him.
He was very deflated. He was conflicted. He was angry about the way in which the press had treated him. He still believed that he won the election. And he was happiest when he talked to me about hosting The Apprentice. It was the thing that brought him the most joy. We watched clips of the show together. We watched the theme song, and he really lit up. He watched his firing of Omarosa. And then he would talk about what he did at the White House, and he would become gloomy and resentful and unhappy and refer to Afghanistan and Joe Biden. But he also seemed to think that he still had some foreign policy powers. And there was one day where he told me he needed to go upstairs to deal with Afghanistan, even though he clearly didn't.
I just had a hot dog, and it was very good.
While you were interviewing him at Trump Tower, he told you he needed to go upstairs to deal with Afghanistan?
With the, quote, the Afghanistan is how he referred to it.
It's a remarkable experience. It's a remarkable book. So Until Today, Apprentice in Wonderland, Ramin Satuda. Thank you for coming on and talking about what those 6 interviews must have been like.
Talking about how Trump's losing it because Joe Biden's losing it too. Trump's kidding around. He's having fun. He's kicking about, talking about Hannibal Lecter. He's looking in the audience. He's playing around. And now people going, Trump is losing it. No, he's having fun.
All right.
And that's what was picked up.
Absolutely. This debate is huge. It's huge for President Trump because we see in our Fox poll, Biden leads among independents by 9.
Get out! Go where you belong! Get out! Get out! Stay away from us! So for 20 years, I heard that NATO, if Ukraine goes into NATO, it's a real problem for Russia. I've heard that for a long time. And I think that's really why this war started. I'm not sure that this war would have started. But I just had a hot dog, and it was very good. So it never happened. Russia was not going to attack Ukraine. As soon as I got out, they started to form along the lines. And I thought that Putin maybe will. Look, he's a good negotiator. I thought he was going to be doing that for negotiation purposes. Then all of a sudden they attacked. And I said, what's going on here?
Huh? You don't shut your dumbass. All right.
Joan said she was a Republican. Did you know that?
I thought she might have been a Republican.
Yeah.
I know one thing. She voted for me, according to what she said.
Okay, well, there's just one minor problem with that. Joan Rivers died 2 years before the 2016 election, a little too early for early voting.
Isn't that something? So, oh man.
The reason I'm doing this and devoting a lot of time to it, I have to get back up because, I'm doing the whole thing with the Afghanistan. Has he blown that Afghanistan? He was a pretty cool cat in many ways, I'll tell you. Hey, look, he dated Madonna when she was the #1 person. You got to have something going, right?
He also showed up, I think, to one of the summits you had with Kim Jong-un because he knew Kim very well. Do you remember that?
So Kim Jong-un really liked him.
Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah.
And I said, I can get these guys out of Harvard government and central casting. They couldn't do anything with Kim Jong-un. A guy like Dennis could. I didn't use Dennis for it,
Right.
but I thought about it a couple of times before I got to know Kim Jong-un. But Dennis would have done a better job than your traditional people, your traditional Ivy League people that always do that stuff and they have no personality. Though Kim Jong-un liked him. He coached their basketball team.
Right.
And he did. I asked him about that. He said, I like Dennis.
You asked him during one of those.
Yeah, I asked him. He liked him. And by the way, Dennis liked him too.
Oh no. Oh no. You can't get this nowhere else. You can't get it nowhere else.